Hello, welcome back to the YarnNYarns YouTube channel. Today's video is my March making roundup, and in today's video I'll be chatting to you about some knitting, some spinning, some cross stitch, and also a little bit of mending and adjustment on projects that have been previously finished but are in need of repair or haven't been worn because they weren't quite right in some way or another. My name's Angela, and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. And here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in all of the fibre related things. So yeah, March making wrap up. I managed to get a fair few things done in March, although I got a little bit sidetracked with some mending, which I will talk to you a little bit more about later in the video. So the projects that I picked in my March making plans, they all saw some work and some saw some significant work, but yeah, I did kind of go off down a little bit of a mending rabbit hole. I've got a couple of finished objects to share with you for my knitting, and a couple of works in progress, a couple of spinning works in progress, some cross stitch, and plenty of mending. So shall we start with finished objects? All of my finished objects this time round are knitting, and I'm wearing one of them. So when I set out my March making plans, one of the prompts that the dice roll picked for me was finish it, and that was to pick something close to being finished, and I picked out my sea glass tee, and I'm happy to say I am wearing it. It's finished, washed, blocked. I'll try and get a few shots of the garment in full for you, so that you can see it in its entirety rather than just the top part. Yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed to say there wasn't really that much knitting to do on this. I'd more or less finished the body. I just had to add the bottom ribbing and bind off. I did quite a lot of work on this back in November, and also at the very beginning of December, the first few days in December, which I hadn't really previously shared here with you. Ruth picked this project for me to work on back in November, and then I put it down because Vlogmas, 12 cast ons and all that, and I hadn't quite appreciated how close I was to having this finished. So it was a very nice surprise when I picked this up and realised exactly how close I was. I knit this to pattern more or less. I did end up adding a few increases around the sort of waist and hips, so mine's almost A-line in shape, just to kind of accommodate my hip area, and I'm really happy with how that adjustment came out. I maybe went a little bit overboard and increased slightly too sharply, so it does have a little bit of a sort of flare around my hips at the bottom, but I'm absolutely fine with it. I'm really happy with how it came along. There will be a making vlog coming for this project, so you'll see the process of making this from start to finish. I realised when I cast it off that I'd started this back in January 2023, I think I figured out, so it was almost 3 years in the making. That's just how things go around here, because I have so many projects on the needles. Things just get worked on as and when I fancy, or as and when my dice rolling game dictates, and I have no problem with that. I know some people would find it very hard to sort of dipping in and out of projects. That's not how everyone likes to work, but it's just what I enjoy doing, and I accept the fact that some projects will take quite a few years to complete, this one being one. I think I used about 350-ish grams of 4-ply weight yarn, sock weight yarn, in my project altogether. When I originally started the project, I picked out a bunch of different skeins from my stash, and I actually have loads of those left over. I've rewound a bunch of them. After I cast off the project, I decided to rewind all of the skeins so that they can go back in my stash. Most of these have at least 70 grams of yarn left on them, so definitely enough to knit a pair of socks for me, for instance, or plenty to go into future projects. I think this would be a great project to do a little bit of stash busting if you want to go super colourful. Super thrilled with how this one turned out, and as I said, there will be a making vlog coming soon. Next up for finished objects, I've got 2 pairs of socks. The first pair of socks were the project that I picked for the prompt that came up, which was make along, and I'm participating in Roro and Cade's 12 cozy socks make along, and It's a make along that's going to be happening over 2 years. Kelly from the designer behind Row and Cades is offering one of her sock patterns every 2 months at a discount, and you get 2 months to finish your socks. So I knit my first pair, which were the Storm Seeker, in sort of January, February, and the March-April pattern is the Dusting of Frost Socks, and I am happy to say that I have completed mine. So I now have a whole month where I have to wait to see what the next sock pattern will be. I specifically ordered some yarn for this project. I'm hoping to donate the majority of the socks that I make in this make along to the Flower Power Fund, and they ask for sort of predominantly yellow coloured socks. So I ordered a beautiful skein of speckly yellow yarn from my lovely friends Andy and Angela at Attic Spin Dye. I ordered their sugarcane deep speckle colourway, which I've used as the main colour of my socks, and I've paired that with some contrast yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners in the signature 4-ply. I think this is called, it's either called Buttermilk or Butterscotch. I think it's called Butterscotch. It's a beautiful lace pattern. It's quite an intricate lace pattern, but you're only working it over the front part of the sock, and the back is obviously stocking stitch, so you only kind of have to concentrate for half of the round. And there's quite a few rest rows as well where you're just knitting across the stitches, but it is a lovely delicate lacy pattern, and I love how it's turned out in that speckly yarn. Just gives an extra bit of interest. I think I used just over 50 grams, 55, 60 grams of yarn for this. So I'm hoping that at some point in the make along I will be able to incorporate my leftovers from this colourway into another pair of socks in the future. So we'll just have to see what patterns come up. But yeah, I'd love to use up the rest of this yarn. I had a lot of fun with this. You do have to concentrate on the lace a bit, but once you get into the groove of it, it's a really nice pattern. It has these beautiful sort of double eyelet detail down the side as well. Very delicate, elegant looking sock, I think. The final finished object that I have for this roundup is also another pair of socks, and when I rolled my dice prompts for last month, I got the multicolour prompt, and I decided to pick up and work on my Christmas socks, which is one of my 12 cast-ons from this last year. If you happen to be new to the channel, 12 cast-ons is a make-along that I host every year, whereby I cast on 12 projects to set myself up for my coming weeks, months, years worth of making. There's some playlists and some videos explaining the make-along on the channel if you want to find out more. And on day one of my 12 cast-ons for this year, I set myself a challenge of working through my Christmas yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners. So eventually throughout the year, hopefully I will be making 9 pairs of socks using that yarn. I'm happy to say the first pair are finished, and this is the Stripe Tees pattern, which is a free pattern on Ravelry by General Hog Buffer, and I used the Candy Cane colourway, or yeah, Candy Cane colourway from West Yorkshire Spinners. And it's a really fun sock construction. This is the second time I've knit with this pattern. Last year I made a scrappy pair. I wanted to make another pair for myself, and I think there might be at least one more pair of these in my future for me. You cast on for the cuff as normal, and then you work in strips. So you work backwards and forwards over one sort of thin strip, and you build out 3 stripes for the front of the sock. Then you, oh no, actually I'm telling a lie. you build the back of the sock first, then you do the heel flap, gusset, turn, and then you work along the bottom of the sock. Then you pick up all the way back along here and you work 3 stripes for the front, and then you end with a toe, and it's just so fun. No seaming involved, but you do have to pick up stitches. But if you can pick up stitches for the sort of heel flap and gusset, if you're a sock knitter, you can definitely make these socks. They're not complicated, they're a lot of fun, but you do, because you're going backwards and forwards over these little strips, you do have to purl a fair amount. So if you're not a fan of purling, then maybe this pattern won't be for you. A couple of different ways that you can work the bottom of the foot. So you can work the bottom of the foot in 3 sections to mirror the back and the top, or you can work the bottom of the foot all in one section. And when I knit this pattern before, I did the 3 strip version underneath, but I thought it would be fun to play around with the striping effects, and I did just the one sort of section on the bottom of the foot, and I think that provides a little bit of extra sort of visual interest for these socks. They're obviously only 3 colours, the white, the red and the green. I wanted to try and kind of mix that up and make these as kind of bold and in your face as I could, and I thought one of the ways to do that would be to try to give you a bit of eye strain by mixing up the way that the yarn striped up. So you get the narrow stripes obviously around the cuff, you get these large sort of sections almost like a colour block along the back and the front, and then because the rows are slightly longer under the foot, the striping pattern changes again more frequently along the bottom. So yeah, I had lots of fun with these. I am a little bit disappointed with this yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners. I don't think it really notices quite as much around the cuff where the colour changes quite frequently, but in these sections of supposedly white yarn where I've got the colour blocks, it's not a very clean colour, so there's lots of bits of red in particular in these socks, and there's also sort of random patches where you get like a stitch or two showing through in the different colours. So there's a green one on that one. I think I've got, yeah, there's a couple of red stitches in this one. So it's not the cleanest looking yarn, which, as I say, I was a little bit disappointed about. But I don't think if I'd have done a normal vanilla sock, I don't think those issues would have really noticed as much as they do in this pattern that I've picked for these. Well, yeah, striped tees and Christmas socks number 1 are done. I did work on a couple of other pairs. I've got 4 or 5 pairs on the needles out of my 9 that I hope to knit all together. But I didn't make a huge amount of progress on the other 2. I've got 1 vanilla sock that I'm working on and 1 sock that's got a colourwork chart around the top, and then it's sort of plain vanilla sock for the rest. And so I'm not going to show those today because, as I say, I had little bits of progress but not really that much to share with you. But I'll keep plugging away on those, and of course I will share with you when they are done. I'm very, very happy that out of the 4 prompts from my dice rolls last month, I managed to finish 3 projects. That's pretty good for me. Particularly given the last year or so, there's not been as many finishes as usual for me, so it's nice to feel like I'm finally starting to get a few things going or a few things off the needles. So yeah, particularly a couple of the bigger projects. Last month I finished my Heritage Harbour sweater. This month my sea glass sweater. It feels good. It feels good. On to works in progress. I've got 2 knitting works in progress to share with you for this video. First off, the community pick from last month. If you watched any of my making plans videos, you'll know that I have a little wheel of chance, shall we say, on my phone, whereby I spin that wheel every month and someone from our lovely Yarn and Yarns community gets to pick a project focus for me. And last month it was Kelly who picked for me, and Kelly picked the 3 Seasons pullover, which is another pattern by Wool and Pine Designs. This sea glass is Wool and Pine, and I cast this on last October, November time, not long after the pattern was released. I completely fell in love with the pattern and had to buy yarn and cast it on straight away, which doesn't happen to me very often. But yeah, I just absolutely loved this design. I managed to work a fair amount on it after I cast it on. You work down the back first, and this little sheepy marker, which was a fabulous gift to me from my wonderful friend Caroline of Colourful Creativity. This sheepy marker marks where I was when I picked up this project. So in the last month I've managed to finish the bottom of the back panel. Hopefully you can kind of see that. I decided not to completely finish the back. I've stopped at the point where my ribbing will go. There is also the option of some short rows down the bottom of the back as well. I haven't decided whether I'm going to put those in, but I decided to put this back panel on hold just because when I purchased my yarn for this, I'm not using the yarn recommended in the pattern. I'm using a yarn that I found on the Yarn Sub website, and this is the Venezia yarn by Mayflower. It wasn't a company or a yarn that I'd heard of before, but it is a yarn that's very similar to that which is used in the original pattern. It's one of those sort of blown yarns with a cotton core and a sort of woolly outside. Or is it the other way around? Do they blow the yarn down the tube of the cotton? I can't remember. Anyway, I'm sure you know the kind of yarn that I mean. When I purchased the yarn, for the size that I'm knitting, really, if I was going by the pattern yarn requirements, I would have needed 13 balls, but on the website that I bought this from, they only had 12 left. So I bought everything that they had with the thought that if I do need the extra yarn, then either if they restock this colourway and I get a different dye lot, then I can use that for my ribbing. Or if I need to go with a contrast, then I can do all of my ribbing in a different colour. I'm going to continue working on this sweater until I figure out whether I think I'm going to need that extra yarn or not, and then I can go back and sort out the ribbing details. As well as the back, I have picked up for the beginning of the front. So what you do is you have provisional cast on across the top of the back, and then you pick up and you go in and you work one side panel. This is a V-neck sweater, and then I'm working on the second side now. So I need to get that to the same length as this side, and then of course I will join and work the rest of the front across the whole width of the sweater. I absolutely adore working on this. I love it. Cables, lace, oh, it's just really love it. Thank you so much to Kelly for picking that project for me. I will also be working on this during April because Connie picked this project for me too, so I don't have to put this one away, which I'm actually absolutely really thrilled about. Usually after working on something for a few weeks, I've kind of had enough and I'm happy to put it away and swap out for something else, which is why I end up with so many projects on the needles. But this one, from the moment I cast it on, well, from the moment I saw the pattern, really just has captured my attention, and I'm really happy that now I've shown my March project progress with you, I can start working on this for April. So yes, that was 3 Seasons by Wool and Pine Designs. And then my final knitted work in progress to share with you today is my Heptagon Time shawl, and this project I picked because the Dust It Off prompt came up last month. So the idea behind that prompt was to pick up something that I hadn't really worked on for ages. The Heptagon Time, I'm afraid I can't remember who the designer of the pattern is. I will try, if I remember, to put it on screen, or my projects should be linked in the description box below. If you click on those links, please do be aware that they will take you to my Ravelry project pages. This is one of those designs where you knit in any weight of yarn, any needle size. It's just a basic sort of pattern recipe, and the pattern was kindly gifted to me by the lovely Mairead, so thank you, Mairead. And this one has been on the needles for quite a while as well. So here is my progress now. I'm using lots of hand spun yarn for this, including a couple of yarns that I spun from Art Bats. They were very textured yarns, they had a whole bunch of different fibres in, and the bats were originally gifted to me by my friend Jeanette. I spun them up and they sat in my hand spun stash for quite a while because I wasn't quite sure what to do with them, and then when I was gifted this pattern I decided they would be perfect for this pattern. And I really love some of the really fun kind of textured notes that are coming through in this yarn. So I've gone for all of the bright colours. I'm pairing the Art Yarns with this bright green, which was some Blue Face Leicester, and also some black, which I think was just the merino that I spun up specifically to add a little bit of contrast in this shawl. This sheepy marker, another sheepy marker, also from Caroline, shows where I was when I picked this project up, and so I've knit a fair few inches on this. The rows are really, really wide now. I've actually just popped this on to one of those sort of bits of cord so I could see how much further I need to go on this project. So this is how wide my rounds are at the minute. I haven't counted my stitches, but there's lots on there. So each round now is taking quite some time. The point that I've got to though is that I have actually used both of the Art Yarns that I've been putting into this. So I was hoping that maybe this would be long enough and I could just do another couple of rows of the black or the green and just bind off, but I don't think I'm quite there yet. When I pop this on, it does kind of go around and squish under, but I think if I left it this length I would need to wear it with a shawl pin, because I don't think the sort of amount of yarn that I've got hanging out here, I think it would easily sort of work off and unravel and fall off if I just wore it like this. I do, when I was playing around with it, I do quite like it as a sort of off the shoulder kind of proper shawl. Really love that. So yeah, I'm in two minds really, because I think if I decided to wear it like this with a shawl pin, it would be fine. But if I want to wear it as a proper sort of wrap around, then it needs to be a little bit longer. I don't know, what do you think? Seeing it again on the camera, I'm really tempted just to bind it off. I apologise if you can hear squeaking. It's a very squeaky floorboard in this room. It's just where I'm standing today. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe I should bind it off. That's for me to think about over the next couple of days. I have decided that I'm so close to finishing this that I will carry on and get it finished now. One of the projects that I've got lined up for my April making is my shift cowl, which is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. My memory card on my camera got full. The camera stopped recording. Hopefully editing Ange will figure it all out, but I think I was saying my plan for the heptagon time is to actually sit down, figure out what I want to do to finish that, whether that's add some more rows or just bind it off as it is, before I move on to my shift cowl. It's another project that I'm working in handspun and I'm really excited to get to it. So I feel like before I get completely taken over by that excitement, I'm going to set myself a little goal of finishing the heptagon time, and then my reward will be that I can move on to the shift cowl. Hopefully editing Ange made that make sense. If not, I'm sorry. That's everything in terms of knitting. For spinning, I have just two works in progress to share with you, and they're two projects that you might have seen in my last roundup video. I'm working on some spins for my Spin the Bin challenge. It's a make-along being hosted by Grumpy Sheep, Happy Llama. And I've got on my e-spinner at the moment some John Arbon Harvest Hues fibre in, I'm not sure what the colourway is called, but it's this beautiful rusty orange. I've got about 100 grams of the fibre. I'm spinning it up into a traditional 3-ply. As you can see, I have finished 2 bobbins. I think last time I'd finished 1. I've got 1 more quantity of this to spin up, which is on my spinner at the moment. I'm about a third of the way through the last third, and then I'll apply these all together for hopefully some lovely finished yarn. I didn't spend a huge amount of time spinning in March. Spinning kind of went on the back burner a little bit. I was very enthusiastic and enamoured with my mending projects for some reason. I just felt inspired to get some of those done. So time that I might have otherwise spent spinning ended up going into the mending instead, which is absolutely fine, but I would like to make some more progress on my spinning this month. So when I did my making plans, I actually chose my Spin the Bin challenge as one of the things that I'll be trying to concentrate on in the coming couple of weeks. The other project that I've got on the go is also from my fibre for Spin the Bin, and I'm working on, I've just brought the fibre up with me. I'm working on this, it's Blueface Leicester nylon fibre, which was originally dyed by Feather and Fleece. Doing this on my support spindles, and I think I had 4 or 5 spindles full when I shared this in my last roundup. I've now got probably double that, and I've got about 25-30 grams worth of fibre left to spin through. I'll pop a bit of a video shot of my spindles. I didn't want to bring them all up here because there's quite a few of them, so yeah, I'll make sure that I grab a bit of video footage to pop in so you can see my progress on this spin. So again, I'm very close to getting this one done. I procrastinated on this one for a few days because I needed to come up here to the craft attic to grab a couple more spindles, and I make it sound like I've got this giant house where I really haven't, but sometimes when you're settled in for the evening, you've made your little nest. It just feels like a lot of effort to come up to the attic to grab an extra spindle. So yeah, hopefully now I've taken a couple of new spindles downstairs, this one will fly through, because once I get started on my sport spindling, I just don't want to stop. It's a real joy spinning on my sport spindles. I do have a new element of my making plans that I have brought in from this last month, March, whereby I have got a whole bunch of projects that are partly started, or kits that I've purchased in the past that are sat languishing, waiting to be finished or waiting to be started even, and I'm loading those all up onto another sort of random picker, and each month I'm going to be spinning that wheel to pick a project for me to work on out of that big pile of things that have been sadly forgotten. So this last month I've been working on a cross stitch pattern. I didn't end up working on this cross stitch as much as I thought I might. In February I worked on an embroidery project, and I think at this point I just got a little bit stitched out. I do love embroidery stitching, but I'm not obsessed with it as much as I am with my knitting and my spinning. So yeah, I did work on it a bit, but not a huge amount. The piece I'm working on is this cover design from this book, which is Feminist Cross Stitch by Stephanie Rohr, R-O-H-R. Eventually I will gift this to my place of work. My day job is for a charity, a local charity that supports women and girls who are victims of domestic abuse. And we have lots of sort of feminist and women supporting women artwork up in the office. So I said I'd make a piece for the office. So when I picked this up, I'd stitched the letters in the middle, and I'm working on the flower garland that goes around the edge. So I've managed to work about half of the pattern. There are a couple of bits that still need filling in. I'd picked out some flosses from my leftovers, and I need a sort of lavendery pink colour to finish a couple of these flowers, and the colour that I'd originally picked was too close to one of the others and it wasn't quite working. Almost finished half of the floral surround for this piece, so it's quite time consuming because there is a lot of colour changes and a lot of small pieces of stitching, so there's nothing to really get your teeth into. So I spent a couple of hours on this, but yeah, my heart wasn't really in cross stitch this month, which is fine. This will now go back into my unfinished objects drawer and it will get finished the next time it pops up, or the next time I have a fancy for it. There's no real rush on this project. And then finally, I spent quite a lot of time in March mending and adjusting a few of my projects. I've got a big pile of projects up here in the craft attic that have been in need of some attention for a while, and I decided that Mending March was the time that I would start to tackle these. I've got a vlog over on my Patreon, especially for the members of the Patreon community, where I go into detail about all of the mending that I did in March. I'm using mending as a broad sort of all-encompassing term, but some of my projects don't really need mending, they just need adjusting. So there's a few things in my stack that have been finished for a while, but for one reason or another don't quite fit the way that I would want them to. And I've put them to one side thinking, oh yeah, I'll do that in a bit, and of course they just sit and sit and sit. I mean, if you've watched any of my recent vlogs, you'll know that it took me about 3 months to weave in the ends of my Heritage Harbour sweater, so you can imagine what happens to things that go in that just need adjusting pile. So in March I worked on a couple of larger projects and a bunch of smaller ones. So I had this sweater, which I don't think I've ever shown or talked about on the channel before. This is called the, what is it called? True Stripes is what the pattern is called, and it's a pattern by Sylvia Watch Cherry. I test knit this for Sylvia and it featured in the 52 Weeks of Easy Knits book by Lina. Here is my version of the sweater. It's a really simple drop shoulder stripe sweater with pocket scissors. And after I finished it, I satisfied all the requirements that Sylvia needed for her test knit, but I did a really shoddy job of seaming in the sleeves, and also when I tried it on I knit the sleeves to pattern and they were really long. And actually if you look at the pattern pages, I think the sweater is designed that way because the sleeves in the modelled pictures are also very sort of scrunched up around the sleeves, which is lovely. It's a very oversized sweatshirty kind of jumper, but I decided that I wanted to make my sleeves fit to length. So I ended up unseaming what I'd already done, ripping out a bunch of sleeves and then re-seaming it up, adding the pockets and just tidying things up generally. So that was project number 1 on my mending pile, and I'm happy to say it's now finished and I absolutely love it. I knit this from some very old Sirdar country style yarn, which is a blend of wool and acrylic. I also mended a hole in my Radiate sweater, which I haven't brought up with me. I just did a little bit of duplicate stitch or Swiss darning over a couple of stitches that had worn through. I wear that sweater a lot. It's a pattern by Joji Locatelli. If you've watched my videos for any length of time, you've probably seen me wear it. It's a purple and green sweater. The final garment that made it into the rotation is my Ripple camisole, which is a pattern by Jessie Made Designs. And I finished this a couple of years ago, probably. And this was one of my 12 cast-ons from a couple of years ago, and I never ended up actually releasing the vlog for this for whatever reason. And I'd worn it quite a few times as an underlayer for when I get out of the sea after I've done a cold water dip. And I decided that I needed to lengthen the project. Originally when I cast this off, I thought, oh, I'll probably knit another one and make it a bit longer. And then I thought, well, why am I going to do that? I mean, I may knit another one in the future, but I had loads of my yarn left. So I decided to rip this out. It's a bottom-up project. So I ripped out the top and the straps, and I've added what's basically about 3 inches of length to this. So that was quite a lot of knitting time. And now I'm back to the point where I've added the extra length that I want, and I can finish the top bits, which, if I remember from when I knit this originally, really didn't take that long at all. So those were the 3 big sweater projects that I tackled. And then I also tackled a bunch of repairs on some of my sock projects and a couple of other things. So this is my stack of socks that I've fixed in some way or another. I had my bits and bobs socks, which I knit last year for our scrap make along, and when I cast these off I realised I had a couple of drop stitches, which I don't know how that happened. I just needed to go in and pick up those drop stitches and catch them on the inside, so that was a really quick fix. So those can now go off. They're going in my donation pile, so those can now get done, be sent ready to send off. I had this pair of hand spun socks that are absolutely glorious, and I've never worn. I usually knit my hand spun socks bottom up just for fit, because my hand spun yarn tends to be a little bit thicker than a normal sort of 4-ply yarn. They tend to be more like sport weight yarns. And for some reason I had bound off one sock really tightly, and I could just about get it on over my foot, but it was a real like wrestle it on job. And I had, again, plenty of this yarn left, so all I needed to do was rip out that one cast off and do it again. So I did that. I had my winter deer socks, which are knit from John Arbon Exmoor sock yarn, had sprung a hole in one of the toe areas. It was, so these have got like this little sort of colour work detail that runs around the toe, and a couple of the stitches there had just popped. I don't know whether I split the yarn when I was doing my colour work or what happened, but I decided just to do a sort of traditional woven patch over the top of that in a contrasting colour. I'm working on this pair of shorty socks. The other one is over the other side of the room because I'm working on a patch on it at the minute. But I knit these from a precious scrap of merino yarn that was sent to me by my friend Lisa. And I knew when I knit these that this yarn wasn't really suitable for socks, or it wouldn't be as long lasting in socks, because it had no nylon or no other fibre to give a bit of strength. And I've actually mended these a few times in the past, but this time I needed to do a massive patch over the bottom there on this sock, so that one's done. And then I've got an area on the other sock which has gone really thin, so I'm going to be patching that one as well before it goes through. And you might say, like, at this point, why are you bothering to mend these, Ange? They're mostly patch and not the original knitting now. And the answer is I love them. I don't have as many shorty socks. These will last me at least one more summer, I reckon. And I kind of love the darning. It adds to the history of the project. And yeah, it's just fun kind of mending practice. And then I had one other project, which is one of my little stuffies. This is a mermaid that I knit out of hand spun yarn, and she had been moth chewed. She was living on the basket that had James's dude sweater in. I don't know if you remember, if you've watched for a while. I had a little bit of a moth issue last year in one particular corner of this room where a few things got chewed. My little mermaid was in the corner that the moths decided to inhabit, so I did a little patch darn over her side as well to add to her history. I've got plenty of things left in my mending pile. I'm feeling quite motivated to continue to work through some of the smaller projects. I don't know how long that motivation will last once I get into my April making. I don't know if I'll have the time, but it'll be good to keep in the practice and develop my mending skills. They're very basic at the moment. In order to help me on my sort of mending journey, I did treat myself to a new book by Skye Pennant, who has the, I think it's called Slow Stitching channel here on YouTube, where she advocates for a lot of mending on garments, both knitted and otherwise. This book is called Well Worn. I picked it up secondhand, and it has loads of really useful tips for mending a variety of different types of clothes. I'm hoping to make mending a part of my kind of regular fibre practice from here on in. As I mentioned, there is a dedicated video, or there should be soon if it's not already up, over on my Patreon page, that is exclusively for people who support the channel in that way. It's quite a long video, and I chat about the decisions that I make for my mending as I go through. It's quite a chatty video, so if you're interested in that, then that one's over on Patreon. One final check-in before I sign out for this video. I'm trying to keep track of my grams in and grams out for yarn and fibre this year, and my hope, I don't have a specific goal around what I'm trying to achieve specifically. My hope is just that I use more than I bring in. So I'm not on a yarn buying ban or anything like that, but I'm trying to concentrate more on using what I have rather than buying all of the shiny new things. I have plenty of yarn here around me, although I don't always have the stuff that I need for specific projects that I want to cast on. But yeah, I'm trying my best. In the spirit of keeping myself accountable, I did bring in 100 grams worth of yarn into the house this month. I went into Cardiff. I live just outside of Cardiff here in South Wales in the UK, and I went to what is the shop called? I keep forgetting. Sostrengren. I'm sure that's not how you pronounce it. I think it's a Danish shop. They have a little bit of yarn, and I picked up 2 balls of their cotton yarn. I have a fair few cotton dishcloths or face cloths that have been gifted to me over the years, and I've been finding that I am using those more and more recently. Some of my older sort of flannels and stuff have been wearing through, and I've been getting rid of them or using them as cleaning cloths, and so I thought it might be fun at some point to make myself a couple of new face cloths. So when I saw these in that shop, somehow I was just drawn to this colour combination, this gold with this sort of dusky pink. I really liked how they looked together, and so I've just grabbed these, and at some point I shall knit or crochet myself a couple more face cloths to add to my collection. Hopefully I'll do that sooner rather than later. Did purchase those, but they were only a few pounds, and I need them, okay? I did manage to finish obviously a couple of bigger projects this month, so that brings my total at the moment to 955 grams out of my stash. So I'm in the negative. I've used 955 grams more yarn than I brought into the house so far this year, so not a bad start. I think I can thank finishing the Heritage Harbour and this. I haven't done it yet, but I'm also contemplating adding the striped jumper to my tally out as well, because I hadn't included that as a finished object before this point, because I knew that I wanted to go back and adjust and mend it. So I might give myself like an extra little boost. Although I didn't knit a lot of that this year, it is now stash out, it's a finished object. So yeah, I might count that too. Just to give myself a good boost, particularly as at the end of the month, hopefully family situation permitting, I will be heading to Wonderwall, which is the big fibre festival here in Wales every year. I hope to be going for the whole weekend. I hope to be there both Saturday and Sunday. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of yarn buying or fibre buying over that weekend, so yeah, I need to give myself a little bit of a boost on my tally out. So yeah. I'm not planning on doing any kind of like formal meetups or anything. I just want to go and enjoy the festival. I'm not even sure whether I'll make a detailed vlog or not. I haven't really for the last couple of years. I'll just see how I feel on the weekend. However, if you are local and you are visiting Wonderwall and you happen to see me, please do come over and say hello. I know people have said to me in the past that they've seen me there but didn't want to come and interrupt because I was with my friends or whatever. We're all friends here. You won't be interrupting. I'd love to meet you. I love to chat to you, and I especially love giving out and receiving hugs. So if you are a hugger, please come over, give me a hug, introduce yourself, let me know who you are. I love to meet as many of you as I can. It's always very strange, and I think I've mentioned this many times, where you know I'm stood here in my house on my own talking to my camera, but I know that there are a bunch of you out there watching, so it's always lovely to put some faces to some names. So yeah, if you see me at Wonderwall, if I make it. Hopefully I will. Please do come grab me, say hello. Please don't worry about interrupting my day. I'd love to meet you. Right, okay, that's it for this video. I shall of course be back again soon with some more making content. I'm not sure what will be coming up next. Maybe a making vlog for the sea glass perhaps. I don't know, depends what I get a chance to edit. We'll see. I'm sure there's something else that I need to do as well. I've got a couple of videos that are really near completion, so yeah, whatever it is, I hope you will join me for it. But until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.